And then do you want to monitor that too to see if there's actually anybody joining us
Yep,
via that platform? That'd be
I
cool.
can do that. Okay, so we are now live on YouTube. So I think we can get started whenever you want, Ben.
Perfect. That's we're getting fancy and snazzy, as Vanessa would say. Well, thanks for everyone to join us here and everyone that's able to watch us down the line. This Tech Talks is focused on H5P, which is an interactive content creation tool. And all those words together don't really mean anything. And so I think it's just best once you actually look at it and see how it works and see how it can be implemented in your class. And so we've just a little bit of background, I think, is worth talking about it before it gets started. It is a .org, and so H5P is a nonprofit organization, and it kind of has a cool mission. You know, it's about creating open sourced, openly accessible content creation tools. And so I like that they're not, you know, brought to you by PepsiCo and brought to you by Pearson and we're going to sell the data of everything created here to Facebook and Google and, you know, all that stuff. And so I think there's a lot to be said about that nowadays, because I frankly I don't think we see enough of that. But let's jump into it. Let me share my screen and I'll show you some of the examples I've prepared for you today. Okay, great. Oops. Yeah, we want you to go away. Let me move my Zoom screens around a little bit. And so first we'll jump right into it and I'll show you some examples that I've created with H5P to give you an insight of how we wanted to use it. A long time ago and still now, I was looking really for a solution to the lack of formative assessment options in Canvas. You know, I really wanted, you know, built into a page, I wanted a tool that would pop up in a page and assess a student's learning and give us some insight right there, or give that student some insight of whether or not they're understanding a concept. And so Canvas never put that out. And so we're looking for different solutions out there. And H5P seemed to be one. It was a way to embed quizzes into a Canvas page via using like an iframe, an export, much like a YouTube video. And so the more we played around with it, I realized it's more than just one option. There was quite a few different options that offered a few different solutions that just aren't really available or weren't available in Canvas or in other things that we had seen. And so this first one that I want to show you is kind of how we used H5P to solve a problem with SEC's orientation. Now they've gone a different route recently. However, we use this for, I think, a year and a half as a way to help advise students to the correct pathways that are available to them at SEC. And so there's an example of one that we built for the orientation program for branching scenarios. And so student gets into the orientation class and they get these prompts and it's kind of like you build a slide deck and then these are actionable clicks that you can take within this. And so, you know, the student goes, okay, no, I didn't, I'm a returning student. Yeah, my GPA was 3.0 or higher, kind of unsure. And it kind of guides them and advises them. And what this does is it really cleans up some of the work that the advisors are doing to help, you know, put students in the right spot so that they can get their questions answered correctly. And that was kind of the point of this course. The students go through this, and then boom, it takes them to the part of the course where it has real actionable information for them. They can go through here and then they can complete their task. And then, you know, student gets lost, they can refresh the page and jump back into it. Kind of cool. But, you know, immediately everybody wants to know, okay, this is working, students are going to the right place. Can I see the results? Can I get the analytics from this? And H5P doesn't necessarily work like that because they're hosting this piece of content. So that was unavailable to them. So I think they ended up going with Qualtrics, but that worked for quite a while for advising for their group. Let me show you another example. And here's two examples of just little formative assessment checks that's really the intention when I came across this of what I was looking for. I was looking for a tool that could do this in Canvas. So this is just two little quizzes that are embedded in here. No, it does not track students' scores, and no, it does not import it to the grade book. We'll talk about options for that later. They're kind of bleak, but we will talk about those options. But this is really for students to gauge their own learning. And so, they can click the correct answer. They can get a little bit of feedback there. They can click check, and if it's wrong, they can retry. So there's a handful of different options like this that students can play around with. But this is missing in Canvas. I think, I've been asking for a couple years now. I think this is something that we need. Let's look at another example. For some reason, all of a sudden, the one day I try to preview this, it's crashing. Let's go into my account because what I want to show you is kind of cool too. And it's an interactive image. This is one of the first things I made on here. And what this is this just an image that I made in PowerPoint. So there's a title and things like that. And what I was trying to elicit here is a spectrum of ways to use video in the classroom from a instructor's perspective. So they can pull up the camcorder and do some, or their cell phone, do some instant video. And that's kind of what this is. But then if I click here, it brings up an example of someone doing it. So it's making images more interactive. And so here's, instant video, then here's kind of the office recording. Here's what happens here's what it looks like when you come into our faculty studios. And then here's if you get you get Rick out there to do a full production situation. I thought this was pretty cool as a way to showcase faculty in different ways of doing this. And so, imagine how you could do this to demonstrate information to students, or how students can demonstrate information to you. This tool is pretty intuitive to use. And I think it is easy and it's free. And so students can jump in there and they can play around as well. And then they can actually, put this in an assignment submission to you so you can see it, or they can upload this in a discussion board. That wouldn't be too challenging. Maybe not necessarily for all students, but I think for quite a few students, it wouldn't be a big deal. So those are some of the things that I'd played with. I want to show you just some of the different options that are available, and then kind of some of the innovative stuff that people have done. I think that's going to be worth checking out. And Heather's got a question about H5P's accessibility. Good question, and I'll get to that in just a minute, Heather. Great question. So this is my account, and this shows you what I've created. Now, if I scroll down, and the website is h5p.org, you can go and do examples and downloads to see a variety of things that you can do. And so they have great examples for you to kind of play around with, and you can go by different content types. So if you're thinking, what are ways maybe I can gamify the course? Here are some things that you can do. Here's a presentation. What are some ways that I can make multimedia a little more interactive? When I was teaching language, I used image hotspots. So I'd show an image of and we can go look at this example. I'd show an image of a bathroom, for example, and over the different places, a student could click on it and they could see, the name of that word and how to pronounce it. And so here's an example here, and the students can click on this and get some sort of content out of that. And the variety of content that you can get it varies, and it's really up to your imagination and what you think is going to be appropriate. So here's some information about Latava. Sweet. Let's go back. And so, like I said, there are just tons of different multimedia interactive things that you can put into your course. You know, flashcards if you wanted to stay away from, oh, who are the ones that are using all the flashcards that are out there? The
Quizlet?
yeah, Quizlet. If you wanted to stay away from the Quizlet, you can build them out here. But you know, I think jumping in here and looking at it, seeing what would be appropriate for you is going to be key. One thing I do want to show you, I'm going to stop share and then I'll share again because I didn't select the correct options. I didn't think I was going to do video, but I think I'm going to. So give me one moment. Okay.
Ben, you muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. So this is a simulation created by some Canadian colleges, and they're simulating thanks, Caleb. They're simulating a home visit, and their emphasis is on the safety of the medical practitioner who's giving these home visits. And so they call it a branching scenario, but I'll just go ahead and play this and you guys can get an idea. And so we're gonna go visit a client. Here's the client, Irina. It gives us a little bit of background information on her. And so this is putting the students in the role, in the situation that one of their job is gonna be. And then they film this obviously with a crew.
Who is it? What do you want?
And so throughout this scenario, it's a branching based off the behaviors that she makes. Different results will happen. And some of them you just get stopped and they say, okay, because of the choice that you just made here, we're no longer going to let you continue down this because now you've introduced the violent boyfriend to the reason that you're there or whatever. But you know, our student can go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ann Jones, a visiting mental health nurse, and have been asked to come and assess you.
What do you mean, visiting mental health nurse? I don't need to see a mental health nurse. Go away.
And so, you know, there we gave the incorrect response. And so the student's getting some feedback there. They can click proceed and they can go through this. And, you know, I was thinking, is that too far beyond the realm of what we can do in e-learning? And I think the answer is no. If we had some creative scripts that you guys were able to develop, we've got a video professional, Rick Sir, and Caleb and I and Vanessa, we could definitely sit down with you guys and create these real interactive simulations that could, really engage your students in ways that we're not doing online. And so I definitely wanted to point this out as something to present. Other things that are pretty cool with this is that you can make videos a little more interactive. And so you can make videos a little more interactive where the video plays and there's hot spots so the students can click the video and get some feedback, or quizzes can pop up. All of those things similar to kind of what you can do with Panopto as far as quizzing, but this is a little easier to manage and a little more intuitive, a little better to look at. It works a little better. However, like I said, it's not really connected to the grade book, and so you'd have to then go and assess a different way. Talking about how this works and connecting to the gradebook, I know some of our instructors had questions about that. And what they'd done is, yeah, it's a nonprofit, but because of it, the scale of this company and its usage, they were unable to continue hosting everybody's content types for mass use. And so they can still host your stuff as long as it's not getting a ton of usage. And I think it's really more geared towards corporate training type folks who are kind of overusing their hosting service because their servers got overburdened. But I seem to be able to use these just fine. However, there is an option to connect to your gradebook, and it's offered by H5P.com, not .org. And I think it's about $20 a month per user. So it's pretty expensive for a few interactive types. I think if you're going to pay that service, you kind of got to go all in and really utilize this. Maybe not one or two things per module, but you'd be using this quite a bit. But that being said, you can go ahead and start building these into your courses and playing around with them and seeing if they're going to work and see if they interact and engage your students. Back to one last question before we turn it up to Q&A is Heather asked about accessibility. And I think it's worth pointing out that they do try to make everything accessible. And I'm sharing my screen, so let me pull this over. Yeah, so here's the pricing structure.
Ben, it's only showing us the one window, so you might have to unshare and then share that separate window.
Oh, gotcha. It's not really worth showing, but they have a list of every single content type, and it dictates, and it'll tell you whether or not it's fully accessible, whether it's partially accessible, and who's maintaining that, and what platform, what browser is it most accessible on. And so there are some, it looks like about 90% of them are accessible, but some of them where you actually have to speak into it may not be quite as accessible as other content types. But good question, and it's cool to see that they make this part of their mission to make as accessible as possible content. So that's what I wanted to show you. Trying to keep this about 10-15 minutes as far as the talk goes. And so I'll open it up to any questions, but for those that just wanted to see this, I wanted to also point out that next week we're going to be doing, Caleb's going to be doing his tech talk on live captioning. So if you're interested in how I was using live captions during this session up until when I stopped sharing screens, feel free to join us next Tuesday with that same link with Caleb. And thanks for joining, Ira. So any questions from anybody that joined? Any thoughts of, hey, this is awesome, I want to use it, or nah, this is kind of lame?
Personally, I really like that, like the video scenario tool. I could see that being really cool in a lot of different situations. The only thing that then you'd have to figure out is how to assess that, because if it's like the little flashcards at the end of a content page, who cares if you assess that or not? But if you're going to put in that kind of production effort, then I'm sure you want to make sure your students are actually engaging with it and that it's useful to them. So I was just thinking for something like that, it would be easy to assign some kind of reflection paper after doing the scenario assignment. And then just have your students say, well, what part of that scenario was surprising to you? Or what choices did you make? What mistakes did you make when you were doing this? And it would be very evident that they actually did the scenario, even if it is not directly connected to the gradebook. It'd be easy enough to make sure that they're actually doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Got a question from Ursula. She said, it looks great. How steep is the learning curve? Well, I'll tell you, the learning curve on the branching scenario where I had students, I'm not sure if you were in there at this point yet, but there was a bunch of different questions, and based off their response, it went to the next question. That was a pain, I'll tell you that. That took forever. It looked like a mastermind in the room writing all the branching scenarios out just to begin with before I got into the actual tool. But the formative assessment stuff was, that took a minute or two. The quick pop-up questions, that was very easy and very intuitive. And then you take that iframe that that it exports, and it's an embed code just like a YouTube video, and you just drop it in your Canvas page or discussion or assignment or whatever.
Cool, thank you. I find it really snazzy looking, but it worries me how difficult this might be.
Yeah, so I've experienced a few different ones, and they were all a little different. So I think if the branching scenario is going to be a lot more complicated. Which content types were you kind of looking at?
Like, actually similar to the nurse who makes a house call, just social services scenarios or case management scenarios. How do you react to something the client throws at you?
Yeah, I think that is the most engaging one I've seen. And that's probably going to be the most complicated.
Ben?
Yeah.
Ben, what's the one called with the plus signs that you had with the fruit that you click on and it gives you the names? What's that called?
I always called them hotspots.
Hotspots. Okay. I could see that being really useful in ESL, with ESL going online for creating lessons there. But I find this whole thing is a complete mind blow and really exciting. And I'm glad Colette's here because she's the techie one and we work together. So yeah.
So the hotspots, I was looking at that, everyone, and I'm thinking when you're working with an interface of something, and we do that a lot with some of our computer classes, is there's interface, and GCF Learn Free has that. They've got those hotspots that you click on that plus sign and it gives more details, but we can do that. We can embed that into our own, and looks like fun.
Yeah, and the hotspot, I mean, if you have the image, that's a really intuitive and easy one to use, because you just upload the image and you click where the hotspot is, and then you add the information that you want to pop out. So that's pretty simple. Heather's got a question. Do you know if it's possible to use a pre-existing video and drop in questions? Yeah, and so I think that's how you have to do it. I don't think there's a way to create the video in there. You have to upload your MP4. So good question.
And so let's say there's a YouTube video that you want to turn into one of these quizzes. Do you know if on H5P you can put in a YouTube video and then add your questions on top of that, or?
Yeah, I don't know, because that's where Edpuzzle is nice.
Yeah.
And I know you can even do that with Panopto.
Sure.
I don't know about H5P. I've only played around with it with like one we recorded.
Gotcha. Okay. Something to play with.
Yeah.
So Ben, the version that you showed us was the .org, that doesn't have the ability to be able to put the assessment outcomes in Canvas, but the .com that's $20 a month, you're saying does have that option to connect, to have that connection or that sync modality?
Correct. That's what they say. And just looking at the pricing, it's so much money to ask for an instructor to use for something like this. So, we've never gone there. I think Patrick had mentioned in the past, and if I have it in writing, I can hold it to him, that maybe there could be some funding just for experimenting with it for a year or something like that to see how much value it's actually worth before we get a bigger license. But at $250 a month per faculty member, or per year per faculty member, that seems pretty high, unless it's like really a big part of the course.
But I think that there's a lot of use cases where you don't necessarily have to worry that much about putting it in the gradebook. So like the flashcards or the self-checks, those are really meant for the students' formative assessment, self-assessment. And, it's no different than encouraging them to make their own flashcards or telling them to do pre-tests or something like that. So in my mind, there's a lot of reasons you could use it without caring about seeing those grades, as long as it's helpful to the students. And you might even ask the students, do like a little survey or something at the end of the course. Did you find those flashcards useful or helpful? Just so that you have some kind of data backing up that it was worth your time to create those. And then if it's a more complicated one, like a branching scenario or the video quizzes or something like that, then you might connect it to a graded discussion or a graded reflection paper or something like that as a way of ensuring that they understood what was going on.
And maybe I'm spitballing, so don't hold me accountable for the things I say. Never hold me accountable for the things I say. Maybe we get the licenses. Maybe it'd make most sense if e-learning had the licenses, and then you send us the stuff and we can build it and send you the embed code and you post it in there, rather than e-learning trying to fund 300 or 50 faculty members at $20 a month. Maybe having one of us just be the H5P person that takes it on. That could be something we could do. And with the extra the folks that we have on our team, I think we have the capacity to handle that. Depending looking at the draw that we have at this session here, I think we could handle building a couple things for you guys. So I will commit to looking into that and seeing if that's a funding option that we can pursue and provide that service for you guys.
Yeah, personally, I would love to help somebody make one of those video scenarios. That looks like a ton of fun.
Absolutely, yeah, that'd be great.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what the next session, when and what the next session is about?
Yeah, so the next session is going to be next Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And
since I'm the one doing it.
Yeah. Elevator speech.
Okay, so something that we in our office have been really looking at hard is looking for ways to improve the accessibility of Zoom and live video interaction with students. There are transcription services available for live human captioning, and they are amazingly expensive. And we have used those for big things. We use those during the academy, but we also want to find more easily accessible, low or no cost captioning and transcript options that faculty can start using in their daily practice. That is not necessarily perfect, but raises the bar on that accessibility level for your course. So I'll be talking about using both PowerPoint and Google Slides as a way of providing live automatic captioning when you are doing a Zoom session. And it's not perfect, so we'll talk about some of the limitations, what it can do, what it can't do, but I'll show you how it works, and we can talk about how you might use that to just increase the level of accessibility in your Zoom sessions and live lectures and that sort of thing. Because accessibility is not all or nothing. It's not 0% or 100%. It's all about what can we do to raise that bar, to catch that low-hanging fruit and to fix the big glaring problems and make whatever improvements that we can make. And as the technology gets better, that becomes easier and easier.
I look forward to that because Ben, you had shown me something like that last year and I completely forgot what you showed me to do. So this will be nice to, especially, when you're not sharing that PowerPoint, you've moved on to the PowerPoint, you're still getting auto captioning through Zoom, which I forgot that feature and how to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, so tune in next week and we will be talking about some of the options.
Yeah, and I kind of hacked it a little bit today, Caleb. I don't know if you noticed what I was doing. But I had a different window going on with the presentation live.
I didn't see that when you were screen sharing.
Oh, maybe I screwed up and I was sharing only like one window rather than everything.
I think you might have been sharing one tab or one window instead of the whole screen. But yeah, if you had done that, you want to try it again real quick? I don't have to be anywhere.
Yeah, sure.
Just pop it up. Make sure you're doing screen instead of window.
Yeah, let me try right now. It should be set up.
Bye, Susan. Susan said she's heading out.
Later, Susan. Interesting. My Zoom now only wants me to share specific files, not or specific software, not a desktop or not. Maybe that's why I gooped it up.
I wonder
that
if I
happened
make
to me
you
last
full,
week.
I wonder if I make you full host instead of co-host, if that would make a difference.
That happened to me last week though too, Ben. Last week or the week before, Jamie, when we were dealing with our class, Zoom did some bizarre things that didn't allow me to share in the normal way that I was used to sharing. So I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that is strange. I've never seen that before. Well, what I do, I'll just try to describe it, is I have two windows open. One of them is the stuff I want to share, and the other is a slide deck that has captions going at the top. And I just drag that one window with the captions going, and then I create the window that I do want to share. I create that a little smaller in my window so that when I share the whole screen, I've got the window that I want to share, and then I have another window behind it that's showing just the captions at the top.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good hack. If we can make sure we know why Zoom isn't letting you share your screen right now.
Slide deck or PowerPoint?
Well, Caleb will show you how to do it with a Google Slides.
Got it.
Or with PowerPoint.
Okay. Because like I said, you showed me how to do it. And I thought it was the coolest thing when I walked away. And then it was like, oh, Ben, how do I do that? And then COVID hit. So.
Well, the good thing about these tech talks is as soon as we stop broadcasting, it's automatically gets saved as a YouTube video. So you can go to our e-learning YouTube channel and you can see this and any previous tech talks. And also be sure to like and subscribe so you get a notification when we do another free one. My 9-year-old wants to be a YouTube star when he grows up. He's convinced that that's the career for him. And I've said that's great as a hobby, but we're still going to send you to college and you're still going to get a real job.
Thank you guys. I'm going to head off.
See you,
Thanks,
Jamie.
everybody.
See you next week.
Bye, Colette.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you again.
No problem.
Have a great day.
Hope you feel better soon.
Oh, I'm feeling better. But thank you. I will.